Never seen anything like this. Right in the heart of, you might say, upscale LA, right by the ocean, Pacific Palisades, more inland, yes. Altadena, Pasadena, that area. And it is just devastating.
Welcome to the Washington Examiner's Debrief. I'm Tiana Lowe-Desher, and I'm here with managing editor of our magazine, David Mark. David, you and I both know California well. Yeah. Thank God we don't live there, because these wildfires, the lowball estimate of the cost is about $250 billion. There's a reckoning to be had.
Right. Anybody who grew up in Southern California, has spent any time there, knows this is a part of life. Every year, there are dozens of wildfires in the Southland, as we call it, colloquially, around California. We always knew it was a possibility it could get close, but we've never seen anything like this. Right in the heart of, you might say, upscale LA, right by the ocean, Pacific Palisades, more inland, yes. Altadena, Pasadena, that area. And it is just devastating. We are just at the start of this. It is going to take probably 9 months to a year just to clear the fire damage. Yeah. And then the total rebuilding process, 2 to 5 years when we're all said and done.
And, you know, it's a tragedy no matter who loses their home, right? That being said, like, I think there is a misperception that it's all the ultra wealthy. Yes, in a lot of the Palisades, it is indeed the ultra wealthy. By definition, if you have a multi-million-dollar home, you're probably wealthy. But, like, let's talk, you know, Altadena, the Valley, Encino, these areas are lots of people who, you know, double income, full-time earners, middle class, really. And they live in those areas that are much more fire prone because they couldn't afford homes closer to the coast.
Absolutely. Even starting in the Pacific Palisades, there are lots of people who bought their homes in the 1950s, 60s, even 70s, when if you had a decent middle-class job, you actually could afford it. That's a whole other conversation about how much costs have gone up for housing. Certainly in the Altadena, Pasadena area, that was an area when people couldn't afford to live on the west side of Los Angeles, kind of the fashionable area where a lot of celebrities live, or even some of the upscale parts of the San Fernando Valley and other parts. They would move out there, but even those houses are expensive now. So this is affecting people, as you say, middle income earners. A lot of people in the entertainment industry, I'm not talking celebrities who we've seen in People magazine who lost their homes,
makeup artists,
costume designers,
writers,
lighting technicians. These are the definition of the gig economy. They're not on salary jobs.
Not college educated, work hard,
Absolutely.
Work usually, And there's already been a prior recall in 2020 to test Gavin Newsom, right?
Yeah.
The question is now, does Newsom get sent to another recall? Does he survive? Because he's made very clear that he has presidential aspirations, and not just based on his prior abysmal performance, right? Delivering 10% of the controlled burns he promised. He said he'd do 1 million acres. He did 10% of that. But also his immediate response, which is emergency permitting reform, but only if you've been affected by the fire.
Could be. He might be in a better political position than some others, and we can get into that.
Yes, we will.
If only because he's been out there in front of the cameras. You might agree with him or not on his policy prescriptions, but he's PR savvy enough to realize you can't just hide away. Now, some of his photo ops have been questionable shall we say. But he's been out there. But in the recall process, it is doable. So we can't underestimate that.
I mean, I think you do get points for letting people yell at you. When you've lost your home, your kid's school, you now need to find a new job and new childcare and all your friends' homes. Like, I think being willing to just answer. Someone who did not want to answer the call at all, the mayor, Karen Bass, endorsed by Barack Obama, she left for Ghana after the National Weather Service warned that the Santa Ana winds were going to encroach, the triple digits, really the danger zone. She comes back. Let's just pause and go to this Sky News hit.
Citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning. Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
Can you back up? I appreciate it.
Have you?
Of her catatonic for 2 minutes. How do you overcome that? Is her political career cooked?
She's going to have a tough time of it, for those very reasons. The fact that she left when it was clear these wins were going on, if you're a public official and there's even a remote possibility of this, it's not like she had to be in Ghana on some diplomatic duties.
She's a mayor.
Yeah.
She's not a diplomat. She's not even, a Treasury secretary working on a trade deal.
Her basic problem is this is not the right job for her, in that she fancies herself a conciliator. She was state assembly speaker, then she was a House member for a dozen years in a pretty diverse district, I got to say, stretching from South LA, lower middle class, to even parts of the West Side, and some celebrity multi-million-dollar houses there. She actually went to the same Los Angeles public high school as my mother and uncle when it was really diverse area, Hamilton High School. So she comes from that background, but she's not an executive, where even the Los Angeles mayor is somewhat limited in their duties. They don't have that many powers, but you sure can lead by example and be out there in front of the cameras. Even after she returned, she's still not there in front of cameras.
There is no sense of retail politicking that she's interested in. And also, her response, her idea of permitting reform is the original owners are allowed to build up to 110% the width and height of the homes, which brings us to sort of, I think, the broader, this is not Newsom specific, it's not Bass specific, it's California specific, which is that all California policy, state and local, encourages expansion horizontally, not vertically, and that's into the fire zones.
Yeah, and that's all going to be wrestled with in the coming elections. There is a mayoral election coming up, 2026. I think Mayor Bass is in some trouble, probably against her vanquished 2022 opponent, Rick Caruso, a billionaire developer. He has his own issues, but he's been more active out there and in front of the cameras than she has, and he's just a private citizen.
He ran water management for the city of Los Angeles. He was understanding why the fire hydrants, why 3 million gallons of water is not enough especially in those higher altitudes in the Palisades.
Yeah, and absolutely. And then the gubernatorial race that's coming up, it's wide open because Gavin Newsom, it's term limited. You have a whole bunch of candidates who are part of, you might say, the Democratic machine of California. The state Senate president or some prominent state senator, Secretary of Public Education, all these kinds of jobs, the state controller, people most folks have never heard of. I think they're going to have to change their whole style about this because it's going to be about rebuilding Southern California. Los Angeles County is about a quarter of California's population. Right there, major chunks are affected. So we could see more candidates jumping in, and a Republican might have a fighting chance if they pitch themselves the right way.
I have a final question for you, David.
Yeah.
When we think about people who are in search of a new job, I can think of a big one. Outgoing Vice President Kamala Harris, California girl through and through. Would she have a chance at a second act here?
Well, before the fires, I think she probably had a chance of clearing the field. But now I think she'd be like any other candidate. She would have to detail what she was going to do. And my guess, it's only this, no inside information, she doesn't really want to be dealing with the intricacies of fire insurance and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
She probably wants to go off and make a decent living at this point. So I never thought it was that serious that she would do it, but it seems even less likely right now.
Well, I know for all of us, regardless of what you think of California's politics, a beautiful place, wonderful people, country's #1 exporter of agriculture. I think people forget that it feeds the rest of the country. So we can only hope and pray for the best, but in the meantime, we just have to ask for better policy. David, thank you so much.
Thank you.
To read more analysis from David, Mark, and news from the rest of our team, make sure to go to washingtonexaminer.com. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe to this video, share it with your friends. We'll be back next week. This has been The Debrief.